All right, everybody, welcome to this YouTube Live with Gino Wickman. It's going to be an amazing Q&A. A little bit myself, I'm Ian Garlic, and I am the CEO, founder of Story Cruise. We do video marketing for businesses, video marketing that really works, helps you find editors, videographers, producers all around. And I'm excited to be talking to Gino today because there's so many people have so many questions right now about starting a business. Should they start a business? Is this the right time to start a business? And we are going to have a lot of Q&A today about it. Answer all of your questions. So make sure to be lining them up inside of the chat, and we'll take them in order. We've got a bunch of questions already, but a little bit about Gino. If you don't know who Gino Wickman is, Gino has started and exited two very successful companies, and on top of that, he developed the Entrepreneur Operating System, which we're not going to talk about today, but he helped over 100,000 entrepreneurs through his systems grow, including our business and a lot of the successful businesses I know. I mean, when it comes to this information, and that's why I'm so excited about it, I think this is the best information for entrepreneurs, especially new entrepreneurs. So Gino, excited to be helping you with this today. You take it away. Talk to a little bit about what we're going to be going over today.
You bet. I want to start by creating a little context and set the stage because I want to make sure that we're not going to talk about EOS and traction. And if you have any questions on that, please go to eosworldwide.com, because what I want to focus on is helping entrepreneurs in the making. The big overriding question is, do you have what it takes to become an entrepreneur? And so I've written a book called Entrepreneurial Leap. It's written in 3 parts, and I'm really hoping that the focus of our conversation and questions can be around those 3 parts, which are confirm, glimpse, and path. And so that context, taking them one at a time, confirm is all about, first and foremost, confirming that you have the 6 essential traits of a true entrepreneur. They are visionary, passionate, problem solver, driven, risk taker, and responsible. In Glimpse, it's all about helping you see the future, helping you see the life of an entrepreneur. I share countless stories. I share a day in the life, both heaven and hell, and the 8 mistakes for how to avoid that. And then I show you all of your options. And so I hope we're going to talk about some of those options, because there's more to being an entrepreneur than just billion-dollar tech companies. And then Path is all about showing you a path to get there faster, helping you eliminate half the mistakes. You'll still make the other half, but greatly increasing your odds. And so within that, we talk about college or not. We talk about finding your passion, how to find a mentor, 10-year thinking, 8 disciplines for greatly increasing your odds of success, and the 9 stages for growing your business. And so with that, that's kind of the context we're going to focus on. I'll turn it back over to you, but as I do, I just want to tell this audience that you've been a blessing for us. And so I want to just promote you for 2 seconds and say, if anybody out there needs video marketing in production that drives results, Ian and his company Story Cruise is the place to go. Back to you, my friend.
Well, Gino, thank you so much. That was really nice. I love working with you. And that's the great part about, Gino has a big heart too. And that's what we love about working with him. I was excited too, because the knowledge that you're going to get here, there's a lot of stuff that you can listen to out there. And there's a lot of people are going to give you advice, but Gino's been through it. And, I don't want to over compliment you, but I just want people to understand that, especially now more than ever, it's time to learn. And it's time to, ask these questions and get it going. So that said, let's talk about the first question we have today. Gino, what advice would you give to an entrepreneur starting a business right now? And what traits from Entrepreneurial Leap are most relevant in these unprecedented times?
Yeah, I get asked this question all the time. Which traits are most relevant, or, which ones can you be a little weaker in and stronger in? And so I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is there's a definitive answer, and that is you really have to have all 6 essential traits. Again, visionary, passionate, problem solver, driven, risk taker, and responsible. And they're equally weighted. So unfortunately, if you're missing some of those traits, you may not be a true entrepreneur. And I know that hurts for some of you that really want to be an entrepreneur. It doesn't mean you can't go be a one-person show, a freelancer, have a side hustle, things like that. We're talking about true entrepreneurs that build companies with people. And so they are all equally important. I think I'm answering half of that question, and keep me honest. So if I missed a piece of the question, Ian, please re-ask it so that we get that person's question answered.
I mean, you said all the traits are important. Is there something, and here's the thing I think is people probably want to know is, should I be developing one of these traits? Can I develop one of these traits? Is it important? Is there a way to develop these traits right now that I should focus on, or is it a matter of just going through the process?
Yeah, and so here's more bad news. I'm a positive guy, just so you know. But it's you can't develop these traits. You are born with these traits. It is nature over nurture. And so that's, a debatable topic for some people and kind of a bummer if you don't have these traits. What I would urge is, I've built a website with 9 free tools on it, e-leap.com. There's an assessment that you can take, and I urge you to please go to the website, take the assessment. That's going to kind of put your money where your mouth is and help you understand if you have these traits. What I also do in the book is I literally go through each trait and I say, if you don't have this trait, here's what happens. If you don't have this trait, here's what happens. And that would take us all of the time that we have for this call. But the point I'm making in that, and the point I want to make here, is that you have to have all 6, and it's not something you develop. But here's the beauty. They are discovered, because once you really think about those traits, take that assessment, you're going to start to realize that you've had these things your whole life. And the idea is to find the entrepreneurs in the making out there in the world and flush them out of wherever they are, in college, in the corporate world, wherever they are, and help them realize what they are and live the life they were born to live.
That's awesome advice. And it's important advice. And a lot of things that you're talking about, because you're kind of glancing over it, and they're in the book, but they're also on the YouTube channel and on the website. So use all those tools. Man, 12 years ago when we started a business, if I had had those tools, I don't know where I'd be right now, but I know I'd be a lot further ahead and probably saved a lot of heartache and definitely a lot of money. So speaking of starting a business, I started my business in a recession. I know a lot of people have, but is this environment a good time to be starting a business?
Well, I would say any environment is a great time to start a business. With that said, this is the time that many new businesses get started, and this is the time that brand new great entrepreneurs are spawned. And so we spawned many in the 08-09 recession, just like you were one of them, and we'll spawn many now, because what's happening is, these entrepreneurs in the making, they were already there. They already had these 6 essential traits. But what's happening now is, they're sitting home from school, they're laid off from their job, and all of a sudden they're getting itchy and they're seeing opportunities. And so they're going to take the leap. So this is as good of a time to take a leap as any time in history. 2 years ago, 2 years from now, the idea is to take your leap, get started if, in fact, you're an entrepreneur in the making.
And I think that's an important thing to, make sure you go through the assessment, make sure you have those traits like we've talked about. But now people are like, okay, I have the traits. And one of the questions someone says is, how do you find a good business idea? But I want to add a little, how do you find a good business idea for right now? Because there's a lot of new industries that are going to be spawning out of everything that's happening.
Yeah, you bet. That's a great question, because, I get asked, what's a great business to start now? Well, the truth of the matter is, if I knew the answer to that, I'd be a trillionaire, and I probably wouldn't be sitting here doing this right now, because I'd be so damn busy with all of those businesses. So, nobody has the perfect answer for you. That's what's really important. So if you're asking me what business should you be in right now, video conferencing, okay? Beat Zoom, okay? But Zoom may have beat you to it, but video conferencing. So with that, nobody has the perfect answer. I'd stop asking that question, but definitely ask the question. But here's the real way that it happens. And again, everything I say, I speak from experience in terms of what I did with my businesses and in terms of what I did with the many, many, many entrepreneurs I've worked with. And the idea is we all come up with our ideas our own ways, but read books, talk to people, do research, watch for problems. But I keep talking about these 6 essential traits because if you have them, you're going to start to connect the dots. Some of you are already connecting the dots right now. You're seeing problems and issues and gaps and barriers and solutions to things. Well, there's a business. There's a business in that for you. And so it's just committing to the energy and time to find your idea. And then, like I said, read, talk to people, research, rack your brain, think, do the hard work, and the idea will come. And then here's the other scary reality. The idea that you have, when you take that leap, it's going to change. Okay, so the original plan, the original idea is going to evolve. And so if you're waiting around for the perfect idea, there is no perfect idea. You just have to leap. And so that would be my answer to that. One other point I want to make to something you said, Ian, because I'm glad that you said it because I referenced the book. And I certainly urge everyone listening to read the book, but I have put all the content from the book on the YouTube channel. So there are videos to watch there. There's a video course, for lack of a better term, and 9 free tools on the website, like I mentioned. And if those tools are appealing to you, grab all the free content first. But if this is starting to resonate with you, the book is written in such a way in those 3 parts, confirm, glimpse, path, that if you really want to do a deep dive and do the work and see the context and all that is possible for you, then please buy the book and do the deep work that that book has you do.
And to that point, I think if you're a new entrepreneur, one thing I want to say is you'll find those books that you should be referring to on a regular basis, that you should be reading. And Entrepreneurial Leap is definitely one of them. It's more of a workbook. Because your perception of things are going to change. And a lot of times people don't think they're going to go through all this stuff. And I promise you, everything that's in the book, you are going to go through, and this will just speed up the process, and it'll give you a reference point, and it'll make you feel a lot less lonely.
And it's said another way too. It's a how-to manual. I mean, it is truly a how-to manual. I'm a practical guy. I'm a toolsy guy. I don't know how else to teach, but then to give you how-tos.
Yeah, and it's great how-tos. So, talking about that, now I've decided, okay, I'm going to have a product. I'm going to have a service business, whatever. I'm going to choose that. They've been through that. They've decided it. What's the best way to determine pricing? And especially, I want to, because you talk about it in the book, but I think that in knowing in this time and place that, people are hyper price sensitive, how would you determine pricing, and how would that affect your future pricing?
Yeah, fantastic. And so I'm going to come into that one. I promise I'm going to come right to the answer to your question, but you led into that with something that's really important. And I alluded to it when I created the context for this. And that is all of the options for you out there as entrepreneurs. And so I want to dispel the myth that the only option are tech billion-dollar unicorns. Okay, there are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of options for you in business. And so first you look at all of the industries. Then you look at all the types of businesses, like you said, product or service. And then there's B2B or B2C. And then there's high price, low volume, low cost, high volume. And then there's size, $1 million company, $1 billion company, everything in between. The point is you first have to decide what you're drawn to, because every one of us is drawn to something. I have utter disdain for product businesses. I love service businesses. That's just me. We're all different. Where on the other hand, other people love product businesses. And so again, I'm going to try to not drive everybody to the website for everything, but there's a tool I created called My Biz Match that takes you through that process in 10 minutes, has you answer a bunch of questions, and out pops the perfect business for you. So point being, I want to make sure that you're going into the right business for you so that when you launch and this product or service that you're talking about, you're about to price. Now let's talk about pricing. Here's a couple really important facts about pricing. Almost always, every entrepreneur underprices their product or service. It is actually a psychological problem. It's based on fear. And the reality of it is a 10% increase in your price can literally be the difference between losing money and making money. It could be a difference between loss and profit. And so with that, first point there is really do a checkup on yourself because you're probably underpricing. Second thing, I would like to direct you to a TED Talk by Casey Brown. Masterful 15-minute talk on helping you understand that psychology and how to price. And then I always love to quote Dan Sullivan. He has a great quote that is, when it comes to pricing, pick the number that scares you the most and then add 20%. And so the point is you're probably underpricing yourself. And then it's on you as the entrepreneur to sell your value, to explain your value, to teach your customer why you're different than everyone else, why you're more valuable than everyone else. And so I live in a life that I always want to be the highest price. And so what I focus on is making sure my clients clearly know the value that I'm bringing and they're comfortable paying my fees as a result of it.
And so, even though it is right now an unusual environment, you would suggest still pricing that way?
Yeah, well, right now, our knock on wood, our pricing has not been affected due to these crazy times. There are people actually charging more in these times. Now, all of that said, you got to have a level of savvy because, yes, right now, it might make sense to reduce your price for 90 days. So in this crisis, we're offering, 25% off the price for 3 months to give you a little bit of a cushion in these tough times. So those things are all great, and that's perfectly appropriate and fine. And so you need to know your market, and I know my market. So know your market, and yeah, if you discount for a little while in this market, what I would suggest is, this crisis is going to last for a period of time. Hopefully it's a short period of time. Listen, we've been through a crisis every 10 years for the last 100 years, and we're going to be in another one 10 years from now. So be careful not to get so caught up in these few months. Focus on the long term and what is the right pricing for you long term. Because if you just focus on now and lock your brain into that for the next 2 years, it's highly unlikely your business is going to survive. What are you worth?
That's great advice. I think that's important. And it leads to another piece too, because I've dealt with this in marketing, with working with our clients, is they don't see their value. And a lot of that comes from imposter syndrome. And I feel like it's imposter syndrome's often the people that are the best. But how do you deal with imposter syndrome? How should someone deal with that in their business, especially launching a new business?
All right, and then so give me your definition of imposter syndrome so that I understand the framing of the question and just so that the audience can hear the definition of imposter syndrome.
Okay, so and the actual question is, have you ever experienced it? But it's feeling that you don't have all the right answers, you don't have all the answers, that you shouldn't be here. And I hear this from a lot of entrepreneurs I know, that I feel like I've been, even though I'm doing a great job, I haven't been, living up to what I'm supposed to, and I'm really not the right person for this. And if there's someone much better than me out there, and I'm just an imposter.
Okay, so that's really helpful because, there's a bunch of terms for that. And so that's, people that feel like they're a fraud or they think, who am I? And so again, all at the root of all of that is insecurity. And listen, most of us, if not all of us, are insecure. Okay, so please know that going into this. And there's the old saying that says, fake it till you make it. Okay, and there's a lot of truth to that. So just know that most people, if not all, that you're competing with are insecure. And so have I dealt with that? Absolutely. When I was 18 years old, I was incredibly insecure, and my confidence has slowly built. Every time I raise my fees, when I raise them and nobody even balks, I say to myself, why in the hell didn't I do that 2 years ago? And so again, that fee is in direct proportion to how confident I am in terms of what I should charge. And so it's normal. Yes. Have I faced that? Absolutely. But listen, that's all insecurity, that's fear, but it's all about courage and leaning in and believing in yourself. So yes, we all face that. So please let that go forward, fake it till you make it. And those are the words of wisdom that I would give.
And that's great advice. And faking it to make it, I just want to add something on there, as long as you're providing value to the person at the end.
Yes, and I appreciate that because, I get that there's a negative connotation with that term, fake it till you make it. But I want to give you two perspectives on that because, that quote, I don't know how far back it goes, 50 or 100 years, and it may be further back than that, but the intention was good. And that just, there's the old saying that says, never let them see you sweat. The point is, I'm trying to help the audience, the person asking that question, understand everybody's insecure. I have met some of the most successful people on the planet who sit there and feel like they're a fraud and think, who am I to deserve this? Who am I to teach these people this? So the point is, you got to just face that courage. And so fake it till you make it does not mean con people. It doesn't mean lie to people. It doesn't mean you're being phony. It just says face the fear, be courageous. At the end of the day, you wouldn't be doing this if you didn't know and believe you were providing value to the world, and just enter that danger and go. So hopefully that puts it in a better context.
Yeah, I think exactly. And that's what fake it until you make it really means. And I want to add another question, because I feel this has happened to me, and I think it's a question that an entrepreneur, probably a new entrepreneur, wouldn't ask, but I think it's an important one to ask. Do you feel like you lost business because you weren't priced high enough?
That's interesting. Personally, you're asking me that question personally, and so I'm thinking back. I can't call on a situation that I've personally experienced. I can't call on a situation my clients have experienced, but I don't know that I would know it that intimately, but I get it. I'm sure it has happened, but I cannot speak intelligently about that dynamic.
Okay, well, I know several people. I know someone that actually had a deal with Warren Buffett on the table and underpriced themselves and lost it because they were priced too low. So just want to put that out there for you, people.
But you know what that prompts for me? As I already said, I take great pride in being the highest price in town and providing the highest value. And so as I think about that, I can certainly think of a tremendous number of people that have lost business to me that charged less. And so maybe that's the reverse answer to the question. But there is something to, being the biggest price in town, the biggest value in town, the most expensive, product or service. So for what that's worth, I kind of live in that world.
It's awesome. And I think that's a mindset that I wish I had developed earlier. And I know some of the best, the best entrepreneurs have it, and some of the ones that are held back don't have it. And I think watching your videos, thinking about this and watching this over and over again is one of those things people should drive home. So speaking of what your difficulties have been, what was the most difficult lesson that you had to learn when starting off?
What comes to mind, I always like to go with what flashes into my mind first, and that is, I think it's about asking for help. There's two simultaneous thoughts I'm having, but they're in the same vein, and that is asking for help and being vulnerable or real and authentic. And so if I think about me from 18 to 35, I felt like I always had to have this guard up and this facade and have all the answers and be perfect and never ask for help because that was a sign of weakness in some way. And so it was around 35 when I really learned and started to practice with, reaching out for help, asking people for help, showing weakness, being vulnerable, being totally real and authentic, and knowing that I have strengths and weaknesses, and knowing that we're all a little screwed up. And the more I was just 100% myself, and again was comfortable asking for whatever I needed, more came to me. I attracted more people to me, and so that was probably the hardest lesson, because I really thought, you go through life with that guard up and you protect yourself from the whole world. And by the way, when you decide to lower that guard, it's terrifying, but it's rewarding. I'm trying to make the point there's something on the other side of that, but it's afraid the day you decide I'm going to lower my guard because you think you're going to take a bunch of shots.
Yeah. And how do you have a story of when was the point you realized that you had to lower that guard?
Well, it wasn't one particular thing. It was a lot that I was reading about. It might have been, a mentor or two that I talked to. So it's just, for me, the way things work is all these data points kind of line up, and there's this crescendo moment where they all come together for me, and it's like an aha moment. So I wish I could say it was one thing, because I think, in my late 20s, I probably started getting little drips of that and awarenesses about that I should do it and opportunities to do it, but I continued to fight it. So no, it wasn't this one sentence I read that changed my life. Rarely does it perfectly work that way.
That's great advice, because we all want that silver bullet, don't we? We all want that one thing that's going to work.
Everybody does. Most people do.
So getting started, when is the right time, especially right now, to hire your first employee? How do you know when the right time is to hire them?
Yeah, well, there's two scenarios, okay? And so scenario one is when you do it because you have to. And scenario number two is when you do it because you're thinking 10 steps ahead. And so we're going to start with the first one, when you have to. And I want to talk about the mistake that is commonly made, and I want to talk about the right way to do it to avoid the mistake. And so what happens with most entrepreneurs is they take their entrepreneurial leap, they start their business, they sell a few things, all of a sudden they reach capacity, and now they need a body, okay? And what they do is they grab the closest body to them, which is, whatever it is, their brother, sister, friend, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, neighbor, and throw them into the business. Well, the sad reality is 1, 2, 3 years later, they realize that that person is not a fit, they made a bad hire, and they're having to unwind that. And so the first point in that is, if you need a body right now, if you're at capacity and it's time for you to fill that capacity with someone, a couple important things. Number one, find people that align with your core values, are a cultural fit for you. You love being around with them. And then find people with the skill set to do the job that you're hiring for. Inherent in that, you have to look at you first, because what you have to do as the entrepreneur is know your strengths, know your gifts, know your genetic encoding, and what you should be delegating off in hiring is one of your weaknesses. And so let's pretend that finance is not a strength, or operations is not a strength, or marketing or sales are not a strength. Hire someone with those strengths to free you up to continue to stay in your sweet spot, so that you're bringing people on that they're working in their sweet spot, and then it's a match made in heaven. So that's what you do when you need it. When you're thinking 10 steps ahead, there are entrepreneurs that are savvy enough to see the capacity problem coming, and they're literally 10 steps ahead of the capacity. Same drill, hire people with your core values, hire people with a skill set, but just make sure that you've done a cash flow analysis, because the people with those savvy realize, if I make this $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 hire today and not wait 6 months like most entrepreneurs would, that's going to give me so much lift. That's going to give me the potential to double my revenue. So there's two scenarios there, and frankly, both work. I'm fond of the second one, which is getting ahead of it. But for some entrepreneurs, that's really scary, because you're making a financial commitment that is a risk. And so two-part answer to that question, and you just have to decide your risk tolerance. Most are hiring it when they need it and solving a capacity problem at the last minute.
And I think I agree with that. And then they get into the overhiring later on, which I think is a later on problem, and throw bodies at stuff. But, one of the instincts too, and this leads into another question that someone had, is, instead of hiring someone, should I bring on a partner? And should I bring on a partner? And how should I decide if I am a partner person?
Yeah, that's great. So really important message here. And again, what I'm doing with the book Entrepreneurial Leap is I'm doing everything in my power to show you, as an entrepreneur in the making, again, just like I'm doing with all those free videos and all that free content on the website, is I'm trying to show you context. What I've learned is, if I can show you the context of the life of an entrepreneur, I will literally help you eliminate half the mistakes you're about to make. And so for those of you that have not taken your leap, you have to first and foremost to decide, are you a partner person? There are 3 types of entrepreneurs in the world. One is a person who is not a partner person. You should never have a partner. You need to own 100% of your company, be in total control, never have a partner. I'll come back to that in just a second. The second type is the type that wants to have partners. You enjoy having partners, but you maintain controlling interest. That's the entrepreneur that I am. I'm always willing to give equity. I want partners. I want people to have skin in the game, but I'll never give up controlling interest. And then the third is an entrepreneur that is comfortable having partners, but having equal shares. So they might partner with one other person where they're 50-50, 2 people where they're third, and a third, but it's equal voting rights. You have to decide which one you are, and decide now, because I cannot tell you how many partnerships I've had to help unwind with entrepreneurs that realize that they're not partner people 2, 5, 10 years into the relationship, and they're having to unwind out of 5, 10, $100 million companies, which is a disaster. So now there's no bad answer. You can absolutely build a company with you owning 100%, and you can absolutely build a company with partners. You just have to decide what works best for you.
Wow, that's a big one. That's a big decision. And definitely don't take that lightly. I'm lucky because I really haven't had, I mean, my wife's my partner, but that's a different partnership. But I've known a lot of partner problems out there, serious partner problems. So take your time. Definitely good advice. So, Gino, we're coming to the end. We've had a lot of great questions, a lot of important questions. But given the current environment, and I know we keep coming back to it, but as far as mindset goes, as far as the way people are thinking go, I feel like it is a special time. I was talking to another entrepreneur about this, and I'm excited right now because I always think there's the biggest opportunities in chaos.
Absolutely.
So any final words of wisdom, any thoughts on those entrepreneurs thinking that, hey, I've got the traits, I think I can do this, but I'm not sure right now.
Yeah. So, it prompts a couple things. First of all, it is a really interesting time because all the previous crises, everybody kind of felt the pain. So the 08, 09 recession, everyone felt a little bit of that. Right now with this crisis, half the companies I'm talking to and working with are thriving, okay? The other half are getting their ass kicked. And so, you're either on the good side of this thing or the bad side of this thing. So, it's not all doom and gloom. The other important point is, like you said, the people with the 6 essential traits are very optimistic and very excited right now. And so that's really hard to believe with all of the doom and gloom. And if you watch the media, you're going to curl up into a ball and slowly die. So please step outside of that. But if you have the 6 essential traits, you see nothing but opportunity right now, and you get very excited about that. And so, if you find that that's the case, then you probably have the 6 essential traits, but you may not. And so be careful. Maybe this isn't the time for you to take that leap, but there is a tremendous amount of opportunity. And so just lean into this thing. And what I recommend is, as I already alluded to earlier, talk to lots of people, help lots of people, have lots of conversations, be a beacon of light for people. And that is personally where I get my best ideas and my energy goes through the roof. Is just when I'm talking to people and interacting with people, listening to people, and the ideas just come. And there are so many ideas. You just got to decide which one you want to pursue. But again, going back to those options in business, you got to decide the one that you're drawn to because those are the kind of opportunities you're going to see. I hope I made that clear. Please keep me honest. Dig a little deeper if I didn't.
Well, I think you did make it clear that there's a lot of opportunities out there. But one follow-up question then is, with what you said, if you are an entrepreneur and you are excited, and you see all these opportunities, should I be pursuing 2 or 3 of them right away to do as much as possible to spread out my chances of winning?
I'm trying not to shake my head too hard. No, pick one. So what's important in the philosophy that I've been teaching the world for 30 years is focus. And so please just choose one. There's nothing more maddening than when somebody comes to me with their 5 ideas and they want to talk about how to pursue those 5 ideas. Pick one and go and succeed in that one. Now, there are other philosophies that differ with me. There's too much data out there, and it's been proven. Great book called Focus by Al Ries makes this point better than I've ever seen before. Just pick one and go and succeed at that, and pick the one that you believe is the best. And when that one succeeds, sell that off or hire somebody to run that for you and then go pursue the next one. But to pursue, there's that old saying that says, he who chased 2 rabbits catch none. So pick one and go.
And I know we're going to run a little over time, but I think the perfect example is Entrepreneurial Leap and how you decided to do it, but you didn't start pursuing it till you had left EOS, correct?
Exactly. I made sure that EOS Worldwide was 100% self-sufficient. There was a leadership team in place running that company. I was completely out of the day-to-day. Coincidentally, I sold it 2 years after all of that, but that was not my intent. But absolutely, that company was going to be self-sufficient before I put my energy into this next 10-year project.
Fantastic. Well, Gino, this has been exciting. Thanks for letting me be a part of it.
Happy to be here. This was a blast.
And thank you all for watching. Gino, we're going to do another one of these hopefully again if I can convince Gino. But if you watch this later and you have any questions, put them down in the comments. Gino will answer them either in another live or in another video by itself. But ask the questions. Like Gino was saying, the more questions you ask, the more answers you can get, the faster you'll succeed, the less pain you'll go through, because there's going to be some pain, the less strife, and the happier you'll be. Gino, any last words?
That's it, man. We covered it all, Ian. Great job.
Thank you. And thank you all for watching, and we'll hopefully see you again soon.